What happens is after a while you start, I guess your ego goes nuts and you say, like in July 2024, Eddie Murphy had everything. A new wife, 2 young kids, and Hollywood begging him to return. Then something shifted. Friends notice he'd looked tired at recent events. He's been turning down massive movie deals. His team says he wants to focus on family. But those close to Murphy know there's more to the story. Something happened that changed everything for the 63-year-old star. What he's facing, a film explains why he's saying goodbye to the spotlight. This isn't about retirement. The reason he's saying goodbye will shock you. He was born on April 3, 1961 in a corner of Brooklyn that sounded like gunfire at night. Bushwick didn't feel like childhood. It felt like survival. The elevators didn't work. Rats ran under broken lights. And little Eddie Murphy sometimes crawled under his bed when the weekend shootings got too close. His mother, Lillian, worked 12 hours a day as a telephone operator for just $125 an hour. That was all they had to survive on. His father, Charles, did 2 jobs. Transit cop by day and a broke comedian by night, performing for $15 to $20 in smoke-filled clubs that left his uniform smelling like stale whiskey and burnt cigarettes. When Charles came home at 3:00 a.m., sometimes Eddie could hear the coins jingle in his pockets before he even opened the door. Then in 1964, when Eddie was 3, everything split. The money wasn't enough. The drinking got worse, and the screaming through the walls made neighbors uncomfortable. Divorce was final, but it didn't make anything easier. Lillian took Eddie and his older brother, Charlie, and moved them into the Roosevelt housing projects on Long Island. 1,400 families lived in that concrete jungle. Their new world was made of cracks, broken heaters, and the same government cheese grilled night after night. The welfare check was $1.78 a month. Rent took most of it. Some days they had just $3 left for food. Milk was diluted with water. Cornflakes floated in tap water. There was one pair of decent shoes between the 2 boys. Winters were cruel and Lillian had no choice but to let them sleep in coats. Outside, the gangs came out before sundown. So, Lillian told her boys to come in before 4:00 p.m. and not to look back. Then came 1965. Eddie was 4 when Lillian collapsed, coughing blood. Tuberculosis, 11 months in isolation. Eddie and Charlie were dumped into foster care. They were placed with a woman named Viola Jenkins, 67 years old, feared in the neighborhood, paid $140 a month per child, and barely fed them $20 worth of food, oatmeal for breakfast, peanut butter for every other meal. They weren't allowed to move. If Charlie opened his mouth, he got whipped with a leather belt. One day, Eddie talked back. Jenkins locked him in a dark basement closet. At night, they shared a thin blanket on a single mattress while cold air poured through broken windows. No one came to help. Teachers saw the bruises but said nothing. That fear, that silence later became Eddie's material. The angry authority figures, the screaming aunties, the ridiculous adults he would imitate on stage. The pain stayed with him, but so did the memory. By 1970, Eddie was 9, and what little father had left vanished for good. On November 12, Charles Murphy was shot dead outside Mickey's bar over a $50 card game. The killer walked away. No charges, no witnesses wanted trouble. Charles was gone at 30. He left behind $800 in gambling debt. Lillian had to borrow $600 from the church just to bury him. Eddie found out at school when kids pointed and whispered. The open casket showed 3 bullet holes. That image lived in his nightmares for years. The urge he never expressed came out later on stage as deadbeat dad characters that audiences laughed at without knowing they came from real grief. In 1971, something changed. Lillian married a man named Vernon Lynch, who worked 14-hour shifts at Breyer's ice cream plant, making $165 a week. It was triple what she made. They moved to 1037 Washington Avenue in Roosevelt. And for the first time in his life, Eddie had his own room. Vernon didn't try to replace Charles. He won Eddie over with magic tricks and Yankee tickets. Eddie still resented him at first, breaking rules and refusing to call him Dad. But Vernon was patient. He came home tired, arms stained with vanilla mix, always carrying leftover ice cream cups. It helped. The new neighborhood had more kids like Eddie. His mixed heritage still got him teased, but he began to find his rhythm. He did impressions on the block, charged 25 cents, and made more than ice cream money. At age 10, he felt something spark. By 13, he had saved $47 and bought a Sony tape recorder. He spent 4 to 5 hours every day doing voices. Elvis, Bugs, Bunny, Richard Pryor. He'd record a joke 20 times, study it, redo it until it hit perfect. He wasn't interested in school. In 10th grade, he only showed up for 60 days. He failed math, science, and English. But he got A's in drama. His teachers said he was disruptive. His classmates said he was the funniest kid in school. He got in trouble for impersonating teachers during lunch. Vernon threatened to take away the tape recorder. Lillian didn't let him. She saw something real. And then came the day that changed it all. October 1976. He was 15. He skipped school and crashed a local talent show in Roosevelt. He wasn't there to tell jokes. He wore Charlie's oversized jacket and a clip-on tie. He sang Al Green's Let's Stay Together. The crowd of 200 teenagers screamed. When the host handed him 12 Vow and wrinkled singles, it felt like a million. He went home and stayed up all night writing jokes on napkins. He couldn't stop. It became an obsession. Every Friday night in 1977, he lied to Lillian and said he was going to the library. Instead, he took the 7:15 p.m. train into Manhattan. It cost $8.50 round trip, just enough for a ticket and a Coke. He found the comic strip on East 81 St., a smoky basement full of broken dreams. On March 18, he finally went up. His set bombed. Stories about foster care. No one left. He panicked, rushed, forgot his own jokes, but he kept coming back. Every Friday for 2 months. Here wrote his crazy anti-material. On May 27, that same joke brought the house down. The manager gave him a regular Tuesday slot. Then came the Gong Show summer. In July 1978, Murphy entered a brutal amateur night at Westbury Music Fair. If the crowd hated you, they slammed a gong and dragged you off. 23 comics performed. Only 3 made it to 5 minutes. Eddie was one. His routine was about Vernon's military-style house rules. The crowd loved it. He got $25. People started calling him the kid who won't quit. He barely graduated high school. He walked the stage 2 months late on August 15, 1979, voted most popular in the yearbook. He imitated 3 teachers during his 47-second speech. By September, he enrolled at Nassau Community College for communications. He showed up to 12 classes. Then on October 3, 1979, he walked into the registrar's office and dropped out. Told them, "I'm going to be on TV by Christmas." Lillian didn't speak to him for 3 weeks. That same month, he got a regular spot at Governor's Comedy Club, 3 nights a week, $35 a night. At 18, he lived at Catch a Rising Star. The club became his home. One night, he did a 5-minute audition inside the club's bathroom just to get a spot. It worked. In December 1979, he found something by accident. While impersonating his neighbor, Mrs. Williams, his voice cracked. Instead of stopping, he leaned into it, exaggerated it, and created a high-pitched nasal falsetto. The audience lost it. Would film a chase scene that burned rubber through Beverly Hills. He improvised with Judge Reinhold and John Ashton like they were old friends. The critics didn't love it, but the box office did. It made $153.7 million and proved Eddie wasn't just funny. He was firepower. Then came Coming to America, a royal fish-out-off-water fairy tale that cost $39 million and let Murphy do something no one else could. He played 4 people: Prince Ake, Semi, Clarence, and the guy getting roasted in the barber shop. Each role needed wigs, prosthetics, and hours in makeup. The barber's bald head, the loud customer's jerry curl, Akeem's braids. Every detail cost money. The wigs alone ran over $200,000, but it worked. Murphy turned the fictional kingdom of Zamunda into something that felt real. He even hired African cultural consultants to get the tone right. When Akeem searched for love in a Queen's soul food joint, audiences followed him without blinking. The movie made $288.8 million. It was his biggest solo hit and his most loved. Off-screen, he was just as intense. While filming in Queens, Murphy spent over $300,000 on the community. He set up temporary barber shops for extras, paid for meals across entire blocks, hired locals as background actors. He even started a scholarship fund for kids in the neighborhood. He refused to cut his hair, so he paid for custom wigs instead. Not because it was easy, but because it felt real, and people remembered that. But the backlash from Raw wouldn't stay quiet. His jokes about AIDS and gay men had once been called bold. By 1991, they were called dangerous. A California man sued him for $2 million, claiming emotional trauma. The case settled quietly for about $100,000, but the damage was loud. Protest groups demanded boycotts. The UNM frowned. Murphy said later he regretted the tone. "It was a different time," he explained. Still, that lawsuit was the first time a stand-up comic faced real legal heat for words said on stage. It changed the way Eddie picked projects. It didn't change how many people bought Raw, but it left a scar on the legacy. In 1992, the distinguished gentleman tried something new. Murphy is a corrupt congressman in a comedy about bribes, lobbyists, and Washington rot. Inspired by the Abscam sting, it was meant to be funny and smart. It cost $50 million. Murphy shadowed real politicians' top repair. He acted out bribe scenes that mimicked real ones. One moment had him taking $100,000 while casually eating a sandwich, just like the actual John Garrett tape. Critics called it crude. Congressman John Conyers Jr. said it insulted black political progress. It made $65 million. Enough to survive, not enough to celebrate. The same year, Boomerang shook things up in the wrong way. Murphy played a Playboy cosmetics exec who ranked women's bodies using beauty products. It cost $40 million and pulled in $70 million. Not bad, but not Eddie-level numbers. Behind the scenes, Halle Berry later admitted the love scenes made her uncomfortable. He insisted on real kisses, long takes. Feminist groups picketed. The New York Times ran columns. Murphy made offhand remarks in interviews that only fueled the fire. In 1993, he apologized in Ebony. It wasn't just the character, it was how he behaved on set. Studios took note. Some quietly started backing away. By 1994, the Beverly Hills Cop series was on its last legs. Beverly Hills Cop 3 cost $70 million and was a mess from the start. Murphy hated the script and rewrote most of his lines as they shot. He mocked Disney executives on camera, called CEO Michael Eisner tighter than Scrooge McDuck. The stunts. He refused to do them. He spent his downtime in a $200,000 trailer filled with arcade games, barely speaking the cast. Judge Reinhold said he felt like they'd lost Eddie. The film made $119 million, but 3 Razzie nominations told the real story. It was the end of the franchise until a surprise revival in 2024. At 4:45 in the morning on May 2, 1997, Eddie Murphy's white Range Rover was pulled over by West Hollywood police on Santa Monica Boulevard. Inside the car with him was Atisun Sully, who went by the name Shalimar. She was 20 years old, a transgender sex worker who had already been arrested for prostitution that same night. Murphy told the officers he was just trying to help by giving her a ride home. But there was a problem with that story. They were driving away from her apartment, not toward it. When questioned, Murphy seemed nervous. Shalimar had $200 in cash on her. She told the officers she'd been working. The police report didn't accuse Murphy of a crime, but his publicist moved fast to control the damage. Paparazzi photos hit the tabloids with